Imagine 5 perfectly functional planes taking off and vanishing without a trace. No wreckage, no distress call, nothing, just gone. This isn't a Hollywood script, it's Flight 19, the first and most famous mass disappearance in the Bermuda Triangle, and it's just the beginning of one of history's most chilling mysteries. The Bermuda Triangle is a region covering 500,000 square miles of ocean between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. For decades, it's been the site of unexplained vanishings, strange radio transmissions, and alleged magnetic anomalies. Some call it a portal to another dimension. Others blame alien abductions or underwater civilizations. But before we jump into the wild theories, let's go back to where it all began. On December 5, 1945, 5 U.S. Navy bombers, codenamed Flight 19, took off from Fort Lauderdale for a routine training mission. The weather was clear, the pilots experienced it, and their planes were in top condition. But 90 minutes in, something went terribly wrong. Lieutenant Charles Taylor, the squadron leader, sent a chilling radio message. "We are entering white water. Nothing seems right. We can't tell where we are. Everything looks strange." Then silence. A massive search operation was launched. But here's where things get even weirder. The search plane sent to find Flight 19 also disappeared. No debris, no bodies, nothing was ever recovered. The official Navy report simply said, they vanished as if they had flown to Mars. What happened to Flight 19? Did they fall victim to magnetic disturbances? A wormhole, an underwater vortex? Whatever the answer is, Flight 19 was just the first of many, and this is just the start. In Part 2, we'll dive into other baffling disappearances, including ships that set sail, only to be found abandoned, with no crew on board. So what's really lurking in the Bermuda Triangle? Stay tuned. Part 2, Flight 19, the squadron that flew into oblivion. It was supposed to be just another routine training mission. December 5, 1945. 5 U.S. Navy Avenger torpedo bombers, part of a training squadron called Flight 19, took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on a simple navigational exercise. The pilots were highly experienced, the weather was clear, and the skies were calm. Nothing could go wrong, or so they thought. The mission was straightforward: fly east over the Atlantic, practice bombing runs, and return to base. Yet, as Flight 19 reached the Bermuda Triangle, things began to take an eerie turn. Lieutenant Charles Taylor, the flight leader, was the first to notice something was wrong. The compasses on all 5 bombers began malfunctioning. Taylor's voice crackled over the radio, his usual calm demeanor replaced with an unmistakable edge of panic. "We can't find west. Everything looks wrong. Even the ocean looks strange." This was the first sign that the squadron had entered a region where normal rules of navigation seemed to no longer apply. The pilots, unable to rely on their instruments, had become disoriented. In a chilling exchange, Taylor and his men realized they were lost in an area that was anything but ordinary. The sun, once their guide, was now an unpredictable enigma. The compasses, critical for navigating at sea, refused to provide any meaningful direction. Taylor's transmission conveyed confusion but also an underlying terror. As the planes continued to fly blind, Taylor radioed that they had no idea where they were. "We can't see land," he said. The coastline, which should have been clear on the horizon, had disappeared. Nothing but water stretched endlessly around them. The pilots were running out of fuel, but they couldn't find their way back. Then came the most chilling transmission of all: "Don't follow me. They look like they're coming out of the water." And then, silence. The planes had vanished. There was no further communication, no distress signals, no evidence of what had happened. Just an eerie, unnerving quiet that followed the squadron into oblivion. It didn't end there. The U.S. Navy, horrified by the disappearance of Flight 19, immediately launched a massive search operation. They sent out a Martin Mariner flying boat to locate the missing squadron. But this too met a strange fate. Just 27 minutes into its search mission, the rescue plane vanished. No wreckage, no survivors, no trace. It was as though the triangle had swallowed both Flight 19 and their would-be rescuers without a trace. The Navy's official report later attributed the disappearances to unknown causes. Yet the public remained unsatisfied, and whispers of something far more bizarre began to spread. time warps, magnetic anomalies, a place where the laws of nature cease to exist, and some even began to speculate that extraterrestrial forces might be at play, pulling these aircraft from our reality. How do 6 aircraft and 27 men vanish into thin air in the exact same spot? The mystery deepens the more you try to make sense of it. The more you investigate, the more baffling it becomes. Was it a magnetic anomaly that threw off their instruments, or did the Bermuda Triangle's secrets stretch beyond the limits of science as we know it? Was there something much darker hidden beneath the waves, something far beyond human understanding? And if you think this is just an old war mystery, brace yourself for part 3, where a commercial airliner carrying 32 people would mysteriously disappear over the Bermuda Triangle, adding yet another layer to the triangle's dark legend. Part 3, the mystery of Star Tiger, the disappearance of a commercial airliner. It was supposed to be a routine flight. January 30th, 1948, saw the Star Tiger, a British South American Airways airliner, taking off from Lisbon, Portugal, bound for Bermuda. The aircraft, a well-regarded Avro Tudor Fort, was known for its reliability, and the flight was considered standard fare for the crew. The weather was favorable, and everything seemed set for another smooth journey over the Atlantic. But as the plane crossed into the Bermuda Triangle, things began to unravel. The Star Tiger was a seasoned airliner, carrying a crew of 7 and 27 passengers. Among the passengers were British nationals, workers and tourists, all expecting to land safely in Bermuda in a few hours. However, things took a troubling turn when the aircraft's last radio transmission came through. "We're losing altitude, but there's nothing wrong with the aircraft. We're in good shape, but I don't know what's going on." Captain Desmond R.N. Arthur sounded concerned, but the situation didn't appear to be life-threatening, at least, not at that moment. The weather was calm, the skies were clear, and the plane itself was in perfect condition. However, there was one glaring issue. The aircraft was losing altitude for no apparent reason. The instruments should have been working, yet something was clearly off. Shortly after this final transmission, the Star Tiger vanished. No distress signal, no mayday call, just an eerie silence. The plane simply disappeared, leaving no trace behind. The Bermuda Triangle had claimed another victim. The authorities launched an immediate search, scouring the vast waters of the Atlantic for any signs of wreckage or survivors. Despite the area being heavily searched, not a single piece of the Star Tiger was ever found. It was as though the plane had disintegrated into the air, vanishing without a trace. But what makes this disappearance even stranger is that this wasn't the first time a British South American Airways plane had vanished in the Bermuda Triangle. Just a year earlier, the Star Ariel, another aircraft from the same airline, had mysteriously disappeared while flying the same route between England and the Caribbean. In both cases, the planes had no prior issues. Both were lost in the same geographic region, with nothing but a few radio transmissions to hint at what had happened. The loss of 2 planes from the same airline, flying the same route, within the same region of the Bermuda Triangle, was baffling and incredibly eerie. What made the Star Tiger's disappearance even more baffling was that it wasn't just a plane that had vanished. It was a newer, well-maintained aircraft that had no reason to experience difficulties. There was no sign of a crash, no debris floating in the sea, and no bodies recovered. The official investigation offered no answers, only concluding that the cause of the disappearance was unknown. However, speculation ran rampant. Some pointed to magnetic anomalies that could have scrambled the aircraft's navigation systems, disorienting the pilots and causing them to lose their way. Others suggested a time warp, where the plane simply slipped into another dimension. Some even proposed the idea of extraterrestrial involvement, perhaps leading to an abduction scenario that no one could explain. The Bermuda Triangle was now officially marked as a region of mystery, its strange power continuing to pull planes, ships, and even entire crews into its depths. The Star Tiger's disappearance added another chapter to the saga, forever linking the airline's flight routes to the strange forces lurking beneath the waves. But as unsettling as the Star Tiger's story was, if you think this is all the Triangle has to offer, just wait until you hear about the fate of Flight 441 in Part 4. Part 4, The Vanishing of Flight 441, the lost airliner of 1950. It was January 1948, just 2 years after the mysterious disappearance of the Star Tiger, when yet another commercial airliner found itself lost in the Bermuda Triangle. A Douglas DC-4, flying from San Juan, Puerto Rico, to Miami, Florida. The plane carried several crew members and 27 passengers, including businessmen, tourists, and civilians. Once again, everything seemed perfectly normal. The skies were clear, the weather was calm, and the flight was set to last a little more than 2 hours. However, things began to take a strange turn when Flight 441 entered the Bermuda Triangle. At 7:30 p.m., the flight crew sent their final communication to the control tower in Miami. The message was simple and routine. "We are nearing our destination. Everything is fine." The crew had no idea they would never make it. Just 10 minutes later, Flight 441 was gone. It was as though the plane had been swallowed whole by the Bermuda Triangle, never to be seen again. No wreckage, no debris, no emergency calls, nothing. The USS Scorpion, the submarine that sent a message 50 years later. The USS Scorpion was a nuclear-powered attack submarine, a cutting-edge war machine built for stealth and power. On May 22, 1968, it was returning to Norfolk, Virginia, after a mission in the North Atlantic. The crew of 99 sailors had sent a routine transmission just hours before arrival. Everything seemed normal. Then silence. The submarine never arrived. The U.S. Navy launched a massive search, but for months there were no signs of the vessel. Finally, in October 1968, its wreckage was discovered 400 miles southwest of the Azores, right on the edge of the Bermuda Triangle. The sub had been ripped apart, its hull twisted and crushed as if an unseen force had imploded it from within. But that wasn't the strangest part. A message from the deep. In 2018, 50 years after the Scorpion's disappearance, an amateur radio operator in Florida picked up a strange transmission. The signal was weak and distorted, almost like a voice breaking through from another time. The message, "SOS, this is Scorpion. We're trapped. Can anyone hear us?" The operator immediately reported it, but when investigators traced the signal, it led to nothing. The frequency was no longer active. No record of any current submarine using that call sign existed. It was as if the Scorpion had sent a distress call from the past. What really happened to the Scorpion? Was it sabotage? Some theories suggest the Soviets sank the submarine during the Cold War. But if that were the case, why didn't the wreckage show signs of an external attack? A time loop? Could the Scorpion have been trapped in a time anomaly, only able to send a distress signal decades after it sank? If so, does that mean the crew is still somewhere? The Triangle's darkest secret. Many believe the Bermuda Triangle is home to an energy vortex or an interdimensional rift, a place where time, space, and reality twist into something incomprehensible. If the Scorpion really sent a message from the past, what else might be lost in the Triangle's grip, waiting to return? Part 11. The Underwater Pyramid. Evidence of a lost civilization. The ocean was restless that night. Captain Eduardo Vega had been sailing these waters for over 20 years, but something about the Bermuda Triangle always made him uneasy. The stories, the disappearances, the glowing lights beneath the surface, they weren't just myths to him. He had seen them. It was 2012, and Vega was guiding his ship through the triangle when his radar began acting strangely. The signal was erratic, as if something massive was shifting beneath the waves. That's when he saw it, a strange greenish glow rising from the depths. It pulsed, flickered, and then vanished. Vega wasn't the only one to witness this phenomenon. A team of oceanographers, using high-tech sonar mapping, had picked up something incredible just beneath his location. A structure, a massive, pyramid-like object, sitting 2,000 meters below the surface. And it was unlike anything they had ever seen. Dr. Miguel Herrera, a deep-sea geologist, stared at the sonar readings in disbelief. The pyramid was perfectly symmetrical, larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, and appeared to be made of a smooth, glass-like material. Even more unsettling, the structure was emitting a strange electromagnetic pulse, one that disrupted their instruments every time they got close. "This isn't natural," Herrera whispered. Was this the lost city of Atlantis? Had an ancient civilization once thrived here, only to be swallowed by the sea? Or was it something even stranger? Herrera's discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community, but not everyone was convinced. Some dismissed the findings, claiming it was a simple rock formation. but those who had studied the readings knew better. The pyramid's electromagnetic field suggested it might have once generated energy, possibly through a forgotten technology. Could this explain why ships and planes in the triangle often lose power and disappear? Some researchers speculated that the structure could be a gateway, a link between dimensions. If true, it could explain why some pilots have reported time distortions and missing hours when flying through the triangle. Others believe the pyramid wasn't built by an ancient civilization at all, but by something not of this earth. Could this be the reason why UFO sightings in the Bermuda Triangle date back centuries? Despite the dangers, a team of deep-sea divers attempted to explore the pyramid in early 2013. They descended into the dark abyss, their lights cutting through the water like knives. As they approached, their equipment flickered and shut down: radios, cameras, oxygen monitors. Then, one of the divers screamed. The transmission was brief, garbled static, then 3 chilling words: "It's waking up," and then silence. The rescue team found nothing. No bodies, no wreckage, no sign they were ever there. The mission was quietly classified, and the world moved on. But Vega never forgot what he saw that night on the water. In Herrera, he left his research behind, never speaking of the pyramid again. Yet the question lingers: if an ancient civilization once existed beneath the Bermuda Triangle, what happened to it? And more importantly, is it still there? Part 12: The Alien Connection. Strange lights, vanishing planes, and the men who knew too much. The sky over the Bermuda Triangle was eerily quiet. No storms, no turbulence, just endless blue. It was December 4th, 1970, and pilot Bruce Gernon was flying his small Boeing Bonanza toward Miami. He had made this trip dozens of times, but as he neared the triangle, he saw something that shouldn't have been there: a massive cloud, perfectly circular, spinning like a vortex. At first, he tried to fly around it, but the cloud expanded, swallowing his plane whole. The sky turned a blinding white, electric sparks danced across his wings, and the world outside seemed to melt into a gray, featureless void. Then, silence. For 3 minutes, Gernon felt as if he were floating. His instruments went haywire. His compass spun wildly. His altimeter told him he was at sea level, even though he was thousands of feet in the air. And then, he was out. But something was wrong, very wrong. When he radioed air traffic control in Miami, they were confused. His plane had traveled 100 miles in 3 minutes. That was impossible. A journey that should have taken 75 minutes had taken less than half an hour. It was as if he had skipped through time or space. Gernon's story wasn't the first, and it wouldn't be the last. For centuries, sailors and pilots have reported glowing orbs, strange lights, and metallic crafts moving at impossible speeds over the triangle. Christopher Columbus's journal, 1492. The famous explorer wrote that he saw a glowing light hovering above the ocean, moving up and down before vanishing. His compass also stopped working. The USS John F. Kennedy incident, 1971. A U.S. Navy aircraft carrier reported a triangular object emerging from the ocean at over 7,000 miles per hour, disappearing into the sky. Flight 727, disappearance, 2009. A commercial jet carrying 32 passengers vanished from radar for over 10 minutes, only to reappear miles away, with no time lost on the clocks inside the plane. The Men Who Knew Too Much. Dr. James Franklin, a former NASA physicist, spent 20 years studying electromagnetic anomalies in the triangle. In 1994, he claimed to have discovered something that could change everything. He wrote in his journal, "The triangle is not a natural phenomenon, it is being watched. The energy fields suggest controlled activity. We are not alone." Days later, Franklin vanished. His research was seized by authorities, and his family was warned not to ask questions. Some say he fled, others believe he was silenced. And then there's Commander Luis Martinez, a retired Navy officer, who spoke publicly in 2017 about a top-secret mission in the Triangle. During a live interview, he claimed, "The Bermuda Triangle is a testing ground. We don't control it, they do." When asked who they were, his microphone cut out. The next day, Martinez was found dead in his home. The cause of death, unknown. Is the triangle a gateway? The evidence is overwhelming. Objects vanish and reappear miles away. Time seems to behave differently. Strange crafts have been spotted rising from the ocean, Some believe the Bermuda Triangle isn't just a place of mystery, it's a portal to where? Another dimension, a hidden base, something not meant for us to see, and if that's true, who or what is waiting on the other side? Part 13, the final transmission, a pilot's chilling last words. The night was clear. The ocean below was calm. There was nothing unusual about the flight. Pilot Frederick Valentich, a 20-year-old flying a Cessna 182, was on a routine flight over the Bass Strait near Australia when something unexplainable happened. At 7:06 p.m., Valentich radioed Melbourne Air Traffic Control. His voice was steady, but something was off. "Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. I see a large aircraft above me, moving at high speed." The tower checked radar. There was nothing there. "It's not an airplane. It's got a long shape, metallic, and it's glowing." The radio operator tried to calm him down. There was no known traffic in his area. Then Valentich's voice grew panicked. "It's hovering now. It's not an aircraft. It's silence." Then a strange metallic scraping sound filled the radio for 17 seconds. And then, nothing. Valentich and his plane were never seen again. Investigators combed the area. No wreckage, no debris, not even an oil slick. It was as if Valentich had been erased from existence. But then, witnesses came forward. Multiple civilians reported seeing a bright green light in the sky, near Valentich's last known location. A farmer claimed he saw a Cessna flying erratically, with a metallic disc hovering above it. A pilot from a nearby plane reported seeing an object matching Valentich's description moments before he vanished. And the strangest part, just weeks earlier, Valentich had told friends he was interested in UFOs. He even believed the Bermuda Triangle held a secret connection to extraterrestrial activity. Had he stumbled upon something he wasn't meant to see? Vanished without a trace, Valentich's disappearance was eerily similar to other cases in the Bermuda Triangle. Flight 19, 1945, vanished mid-transmission after reporting strange lights. Private pilot Chuck McDonald, 1971, radioed that he was being followed, never seen again. Commercial flight NC 16002, 1948, last message. "Something is wrong, they're here." Silence. Time and time again, pilots in the Triangle report strange aircraft, glowing lights, and bizarre radio interference before disappearing. Some believe Valentich was abducted. Others say he slipped into another dimension. And the scariest theory, the Bermuda Triangle isn't a mystery, it's a trap. Something, or someone, is waiting there. The government's silent response officially, the Australian government dismissed the case. They claimed Valentich likely got disoriented and crashed into the ocean. But there's just one problem: no wreckage was ever found. And the radio interference, experts say the bizarre metallic sound wasn't natural. Some believe it was a recording of electromagnetic disruption, the kind linked to UFO encounters. So why would the government cover it up? Some say they already know the truth, that the Bermuda Triangle isn't just a place, it's a gateway, and once you cross it, you may never come back.